Winter at the World War II front was not an inconvenience. It was a weapon. Cold, shattered bones without a single shot fired. Men froze to death sitting upright because, well, lying down meant surrendering the last movement that kept blood flowing. Stoves were rare. Fuel was rationed. Fires could kill you as fast as enemy artillery because, light and smoke gave away positions. And yet soldiers endured winters that dropped far below zero, often inside ruins, trenches and shelters never meant for habitation. They survived not by fighting the cold head-on, but by controlling it, trapping it, slowing it, redirecting it, and squeezing usefulness out of heat that, honestly, today we would consider insignificant. These were not comfort solutions. They were survival systems, refined by men who learned quickly that warmth was as strategic as ammunition. What makes these methods worth revisiting is that they were designed for scarcity. No electricity, no central heating, no modern insulation. And that is exactly why they still work indoors today when power fails, fuel is limited, or systems collapse. These are not theories. They were proven night after night, winter after winter, on the harshest front lines in modern history. Bread oven heat capture worked because stone remembers warmth. In occupied villages and abandoned farms across Europe, stone bread ovens became thermal lifelines. These ovens were designed to bake for hours using retained heat rather than open flame. Soldiers learned quickly that the real value wasn't the bread, it was the stone itself. After baking, the oven walls remained hot long after the fire died. Soldiers placed dry stones or bricks inside to absorb that stored heat, then wrapped them in cloth, straw, or spare uniforms, and carried them back to shelters. Inside dugouts or barns, those stones released warmth slowly for hours. The principle is simple thermal mass. Stone stores energy and releases it gradually. Indoors, today, the same method works using bricks heated in an oven or near a fireplace, then wrapped and placed near beds or cold walls. It is silent, smokeless, and fuel-efficient. The key lesson is, really, reuse heat you already paid for, instead of burning more. Fuel drip-tin burners provided steady heat without revealing position. Open flames were dangerous, you see. Instead, soldiers improvised micro-burners using tobacco tins. A cloth wick sat in sand or dirt inside the tin, fed by slow drips of kerosene, oil or grease. The flame was small, controlled and nearly smokeless. It produced just enough radiant heat to warm hands, dry socks, or keep enclosed spaces above freezing. Sand absorbed and radiated heat even after the flame was extinguished. Indoors, today, the same principle exists in alcohol stoves and controlled candle heaters, but the lesson is moderation. Heat doesn't need to roar to be effective. It needs to be steady and contained. Heated ammunition boxes became portable radiators. Steel ammo boxes were everywhere, and soldiers repurposed them brilliantly. Filled with stones or scrap metal and placed near a cooking fire, the boxes absorbed enormous amounts of heat. Once sealed, they were carried back to shelters and used as radiant heaters. Steel slowed heat loss dramatically. The box could warm bedding, walls or feet for hours without flame or fuel. Indoors today, this translates directly to using sealed metal containers or cast iron heated safely and moved where warmth is needed. The wartime insight was mobility. Heat is most valuable where people are, not where fires happen. Boiled cloth draft stoppers prevented heat loss better than more fuel. Cold killed through gaps. Soldiers discovered that untreated fabric froze stiff and failed. By boiling cloth in oil, wax or animal fat, they created flexible, moisture-resistant draft blockers. These were pressed into cracks, nailed along door bases, or stitched into tubes laid across thresholds. Heat stayed inside instead of bleeding out. Indoors today, sealing drafts does more than turning up heaters ever could. The wartime reality was ruthless. The cheapest heat is the heat you don't lose. Meat-fat candles provided heat, light, and, well, a kind of redundancy. Rendered fat was never wasted, not a drop. Soldiers would pour it into tins with cloth wicks to create candles that, burned slowly and steadily. One candle could raise the temperature in a small shelter, enough to prevent frost and damp, which was, honestly, a lifesaver. It could dry gloves, warm food gently, or provide emergency light without any smoke. Even indoors today, the concept still applies. Low-output heat sources can stabilize temperatures in enclosed spaces more effectively than most people expect. The wartime mindset was total use of resources. Nothing was single-purpose. Hay and straw chambers trapped body heat better than blankets ever could. In barns and farms, soldiers slept inside hay barrels or thick straw piles, hollowed out just enough to crawl inside. Straw trapped air, and air trapped heat. Body warmth reflected inward instead of escaping. No fuel, no flame, just insulation. Even today, this principle lives on in layered bedding, insulated sleeping spaces, and reducing the heated volume around the body rather than the entire room. Soldiers learned quickly that heating people is easier than heating air. Heated metal tools acted as silent heat batteries. Shovels, helmets and steel plates were heated near stoves or embers and then used as radiant warmers. A shovel placed under blankets could keep feet warm for hours, really. Metal absorbed heat fast and released it slowly. Indoors today, pans, stones or metal plates work the same way, if you use them carefully. The wartime lesson was adaptability. Tools were not limited to their intended purpose. Why do these methods still matter? World War II soldiers didn't defeat winter with comfort. They defeated it with discipline, physics, and observation. Every trick shared one philosophy: store heat, slow its escape, move it where it matters. Modern systems tend to hide these truths behind switches and thermostats, but when those fail, the old knowledge works immediately. These methods aren't nostalgia. They're contingency skills. They are the difference between endurance and exposure. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, if you believe history should be studied not just for facts, but for function, then stay with us. Subscribe to the Wartime Frontlines, share this with someone who values preparedness, and help keep the lessons that once kept men alive from being forgotten.